Welcome to Complexity Made Simple, and my name is Paul Allen. And before we get into today's fantastic video newsletter, what I'd like to talk to you about is all the materials that you can purchase to help to support the channel. We've got these fantastic textbooks that range from the simple statistical process control for small batch production. We've got the 7 quality tools for world-class problem solving, which is essentially yellow belt material. Then we move on to design of experiments for 21st century engineers. Every engineer and scientist needs to be able to do design of experiments. And then finally, drink tea and read the paper. The most fantastic green belt handbook you can buy on the market today, full of practical tips and fantastic physics that'll help you become a world-class engineer and a world-class quality engineer. Of course, you can also click on the link to buy me a coffee and make a donation. That would be fantastic. But at the very least, click on subscribe, click on like the video, because it all helps to support the channel. Many thanks for your help, and now on to today's video. Welcome to Complexity Made Simple, and in this video newsletter, what we're going to talk about is, what do you do with your setup reduction time? Setup reduction is what we're going to talk about. Setup reduction time. SMED. You're going to do a SMED event. You're going to save time setting up a piece of machinery. Then the question is, what are you going to use that extra time for? And this is really important. Are you lean? Or are you just trying to please yourselves? What does lean want you to do? Please the customer is what it wants you to do. So, you've got a setup. The setup takes, let's say it takes 1 hour. You decide you don't like that. So you do some fantastic setup reduction work. You video the setup time. Sit down with the team that set the machine up. You sensibly appraise what's going on in the setup activity, and you organize the system better, make everything easier, and you save 30 minutes, bang, and you halve the time. What do you do with it? Well, I'm going to tell you what Toyota would do with it. You see, they have a rule, which is that 10% of the production plan, 10% of the production plan must be setup time. Now, this is a great example of a principle of lean, which is, what have they got? They have standard work. They have standard work for everyone. This isn't about standard work for the operator who's building something. This is supposed to be a skilled activity, the planner. But they're taking all the skill away and saying, no, you've got standard work and here's the rule. So typically, if you took 1 hour to set a machine up, what would happen? Well, you'd have a shift, you'd have 1 hour of setup, and of course, what would you have next? You'd have 10 hours of production. But you've set the team to work, you've cut that in half. Now, just something to point out. Here, look, you're producing you can produce one product. You can keep one customer happy, producing one type of product. So you can only satisfy that one type of customer. when you cut the setup in half, what do you immediately do? You cut the batch size in half. So now you get your plan. Setup time is half as big, but we make exactly the same product. But now we make product A and we make product B. Now what are we going to do? Well, we're pleasing the customer because now I can please two customers here. I can only please one type of customer there. What happens when you cut the batch size, when you cut the setup time in half again? It takes 15 minutes. Well, the planner now plans 4 batches in that 10-hour window. So now you get the same window. We cut it in half again. And now we produce product A, product B, product C, product D. And now we're pleasing 4 customers at the same time, in the same period. And that is what you use your setup time for. If you're a traditional company, what will you do? You'll please yourselves. And what you'll do when you cut that in half is, of course, you'll turn it into more production. And you'll keep producing stuff that only one customer wants. Brilliant. That's known as, of course, in the world of lean, that's why we call it overproduction. To stop you doing some of this nonsense, please the customers. Don't please yourself. Because if you don't please your customers will do this to you. Has this ever happened with your batches? Has your customer ever interrupted a long run and made you change the plan? Have they ever got on the phone and forced you to cut a batch in half and suddenly do a setup that you weren't expecting, completely off the cuff? By the way, what happens to your setup time when that happens? It probably doesn't take an hour. It probably takes 2 hours because nothing was ready, nothing was set up correctly, and you do everything in a complete mess. If you don't please the customer will come along and make your factory a rip-roaring disaster. It'll take your planning and throw it in the bin. You will constantly be changing over in an emergency situation. Your productivity and your effectiveness will all tumble into the floor, and you'll please neither yourselves nor your customers. Now, I know that wouldn't have happened to you, but some companies, that's exactly what happens. They break batches down in an emergency and they change their production plan every day. If that's you, think about what you use your setups for. Think about your batch sizes. Get them to be smaller because you're doing too much of pleasing yourself and not enough of pleasing your customers. Please your customers and you will make a bucket load of cash if you cut your batch sizes down with your setup reduction activity. Okay, as a little addition to that tutorial where we were talking about flow, here's a 1-minute video that shows you what happens to flow and therefore how much money you make if you reduce batch sizes, stop overproducing. So this is just one of the great 7 wastes. So let's turn this process on and let's see what happens. The clock started running, process at the top with a batch of 10, then a batch of 5, then a batch of 1. Just watch how fast they make money. So I think we're going to get the batch at the bottom out. The 1-piece flow, look, gets the batch out in 29 seconds. So if that was our order with £10 attached to it, 29 seconds, we got £10 in our hands. 41 seconds for the batch of 5. And finally, the batch of 10 at the top there. How long is it going to take? 59 seconds. Completed. Look at the difference. We're flowing at double the speed. We could have made another order. We would have made twice as much money with smaller batch sizes. Don't let anybody ever tell you that batch sizes equals efficiency equals making money. Batch sizes destroy flow, and flow is where the money is.